All righty, here we go. We are live. So again, I just want to welcome all of you. Why don't we just again, just to see who's in the room, kind of introduce ourselves. I'll start off. Um, Hold on one second. So, okay. All right, so got rid of that tech. Okay. So first, I'll start off. I'm John Owens. I am a deacon here in the Diocese of California. I have served 9.5 years as a deacon, ordained at age 31. I serve as chair of the Young Deacons Task Force. AED came up with the Young Deacons Task Force about 5 years ago. The idea was they realized that there was a shortage of young people in the diaconate. And so the first attempt they did was they went and tried to find us all over the country and get us to Minneapolis, because every 3 years AED does a triennial event. And so they got about, I think there were about like 15 of us in Minneapolis. And then out of that, they formed this task force that would be responsible for trying to come up with resources and networking people young in the diaconate, mainly because our lives are a little bit different because we're working full time, we're managing families. And so the process is just a little bit different from, say, the standard deacon that usually is doing this as kind of a second gig. And so knowing that we're in different kind of parts in life. And so out of that, we kind of formed this thing. And then we tried again at the next triennial event, which was up in Providence, Rhode Island. And I think we had about 30 people there, if I was correct, at that triennial. So that was really a great effort on AED. And so AED is very committed to, again, trying to provide resources and working more towards how we can remove barriers. And so that's kind of why this task force exists. And so this summer, we kind of were trying to figure out, well, what were we going to do? Were we going to create, do some continuing ed or a discussion? And we tried a couple of different formats, and we thought, well, why don't we turn this into a game? So we came up with this concept of deacon debates. And so that is why we're here today, to do some debates on some topics that are commonly asked and argued between dioceses and how they manage their deacons. And every diocese is different in how their policies roll out with the diaconate. And so that's kind of, so those are some of the topics that we're going to do that. So with that, I'll call on you, and then if you can just introduce yourself, say your diocese, maybe how long you've been ordained or if you're in process, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to call on Rick, who is our technology person today. You're on mute, Rick.
Sorry, my daughter's got a friend over and they're walking down the street, and I was texting parents and things while all that was going on. The fun part of being a parent and a deacon.
Tell me again what I'm asking.
Just how long you've been in the diaconate and what diocese?
Okay, yeah, I was ordained 1 week after the inauguration in 2017, which did give me an opportunity to see the diaconate in a different way. But so I'm in my 5th year, or I'm starting my 5th year right now. I'm in the Diocese of North Carolina, and I serve at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, as a chaplain for the school at UNCG and the other colleges in Greensboro. There's about 4 or 5 colleges that we work together with.
Awesome. Now we're going to go on to our judges panel. So Phyllis, introduce yourself.
Okay. Obviously, my name is Phyllis Mnuchin. I've been ordained, I think, 7 years now. I can't count very well. I was ordained, and I am canonically a resident of the Diocese of California, but I have been living and serving in Guatemala for the last 6 years. I am the deacon at the Cathedral for the English-speaking congregation, and I have a little ministry in a remote village where we have a tutoring center for children who are behind in school, which right now is everybody. We are focusing on first and second graders. During normal school time, we provide a lunch. We have a morning session and an afternoon session, and we serve lunch in between the two. But now with the pandemic, we are not able to gather in large groups. We are serving 32 first and second graders right now. And the second graders are really behind the 8 ball because they had 2 months of in-person schooling and then everything closed down. And at the end of the academic year, the president just summarily promoted everybody to the next grade. So we have second graders who have only been in school 2 months, which is real interesting, but they're doing really well. So right now, we're not serving lunch. We're just giving them a nutritious snack, but we give every student family a bag of commodities every month. We'll be going out, not this Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday, and we give them rice and beans and a soy-based nutritional drink and corn and oil and salt and sugar. And there's one other thing that is evading me right now. So that's me.
Thank you. Deacon Stephen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deacon Steve Bentley. I have been ordained since, in fact, 2 days from now will be my 8th year. And so that will be the celebration, the beginning of my 8th year, or I guess, yeah, 8 years. My professional career is I'm a syndicated cartoonist. I draw a comic strip called Herb and Jamal, which has been syndicated for about 32 years, I believe. And it's in papers everywhere, newspapers, as well as online. I am ordained in the Diocese of San Joaquin in California. And I run a bicycle mission with our parish, which has been going for about 6 years. It's called Helping Urban Bicyclists, and you can also find that on Facebook to see the kind of mission that we do. We offer bicycles to the underemployed and work with the homeless in our community, where we also have public bathrooms and showers that's available to our homeless community, as well as a laundry service through one of our mobile services that comes onto our property once a week. So we're trying to do as much as we can in the downtown community of Stockton, and have been pretty successful in working with those people. So there we are.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Deacon Maureen.
Well, I just want, first of all, because Phyllis asked, this is Phoebe, so she's a little prejudiced, but I'm not prejudiced. I am impartial for anything. And the next person will be Jean-Luc. Next puppy will be Jean-Luc. I am a deacon, and I've been ordained since 2004. And although I was in my 40s, people, I thought I was old. And yet most people that have been ordained as deacons are older than I have been. And I always thought that there's a real need for younger deacons. And I've been a strong advocate of them. And I was past president of AD. So I've been very active in the larger church. But my major job right now is I'm the dean of the school formation and mission for both priest deacons and also for lay people. And I work primarily with people on the streets.
Thank you. All right, Deacon Keith.
Hello all, I'm Deacon Keith Dorwick. I am soon to be canonically resident in the Diocese of Olympia. I live in the Pacific Northwest on the Olympic Peninsula. So I came from the Diocese of Western Louisiana, and I am a new deacon in one sense, which is that I've only been ordained since December 19th, after a 50-year process, which I gather isn't too unusual. So I'm very glad to be here, and I've been a member of the AED for a while. This is my first event with the AED, and I am looking forward to it.
Awesome. And representing the Presbyterate, Mother Leslie.
I'm Leslie Haig. I'm the rector of All Saints in Fort Lauderdale, which is how I came to know John, who was deacon at All Saints before he abandoned me for California. I actually was ordained a deacon. It was 23 years ago last month, 1998, ordained a priest in 99. I've served parishes. I was assistant rector at a church in Savannah, Georgia for 4.5 years, then for 14 years in the Diocese of Virginia, my home diocese, where I was on the Commission on Ministry when we finally reinstated the vocational diaconate, which hadn't been in Virginia for many, many, many years. And here in the Diocese of Southeast Florida, we're finally getting the ordination process going again. And I am one of the co-chairs of the Commission on Ministry. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you for letting me be with y'all today. And I'm going to be taking notes, not only as a judge, but I love to see lots of folks. And as we get people in discernment to be deacons, I'm really hoping we can push for some for people from all ages. A second, later in life, deacons bring a lot to the ministry, but so do the young people. So thank you so much.
All right, and now we're going to hear a little bit from our participants. So Mark.
Mark Hernandez. I'm 41 years old as of a couple days ago. With the St. John's in Somerville, New Jersey. And I just started the entire process. So I'm very new to the process, but I decided, well, may as well jump in and go through it here as well and just kind of immerse myself in all this. And I'm happy to meet everyone and excited for the event.
Awesome. Deacon Amy.
My name is Amy Bryan. I am a deacon in the Diocese of Arizona. I have been ordained just shy of a year, and getting ready to start my journey in seminary, but not with the intention of becoming a priest. I feel a call to the diaconate, and in particular, to chaplaincy. So getting a dual MDiv MSW online with a 3-year-old and working part-time as a parish administrator. So yeah, I'm crazy. That's me.
Great. Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Stanton. I'm in the Episcopal Church of Minnesota, and I'm 32, and I'm in my 3rd year of formation, and God and the standing committee consenting, I should be ordained fall 2022. So I'm excited.
Yay, welcome. All right, Drew.
Hey, I am Drew Massengale. I'm with the Episcopal Diocese of West Tennessee. I am also newly 41, Mark, and also I've been in discernment since October of 2019. And so it's been a wild and wacky ride so far. I feel like I'm just at the beginning of a 50-year discernment process. I'm also the brand new, as of 2 weeks ago, children's minister, lay children's minister at Church of the Holy Communion. I'm really happy to be here, and I want to send a shout out to one of the greatest people I've ever known, Drew Woodruff. I'm not sure if he's watching, but he's been a really stalwart presence, a really great support in my life at the cathedral, St. Mary's Cathedral in downtown Memphis. So if you're watching, Drew.
All right, and Deacon Christine.
Hi, I am Deacon Christine Gregory, and I serve in the Diocese of Upper South Carolina in a mission church that has three different churches that are combined across a ridge. So we call ourselves Episcopal Church of the Ridge. And any given Sunday, we'll be at one of the three. So it's kind of fun, but it's across a ridge that is full of peach farms. And right now the peaches are all perfectly in. And so we are just spoiling ourselves on all of the fruit and all of those kind of things. I have been a deacon since January of 2018. I didn't think I was supposed to be a deacon. I didn't even know women were ordained. I cannot tell a lie at this point. I found out that that actually happens and that that was a thing in the middle of the discernment process. And so I kind of learned as I was going, trial by fire, but I was ordained in January of 2018. So, and that was actually in the Diocese of Springfield. So in the middle of all of this, I also moved dioceses. So really, those of you who are talking about being in for a ride, welcome to the journey. It's a fun one.
All right, and our last person is our deacon from Mexico. So you're going to say your name again because I don't want to butcher it. How did you pronounce it?
Ivan. Tell me Ivan, no problem.
Oh, Ivan. Okay, all right. Ivan. All right, tell us about it.
Good afternoon. My name is Jovet Ivan Cesar Martinez, but tell me Ivan. Well, I am deacon in the Diocese of Southeastern in the Anglican Church of Mexico. Bishop Julio Cesar Martin Trejo ordained me last year on June 9th. Currently, I live in Quintana Roo, Mexico. I live in Quintana Roo, Mexico. I am deacon in charge of St. Florence, Leading Oils Anglican Maya Mission. It's the mission. I started the mission last year after my ordination. Currently, it's a bilingual mission, Maya, Yucatec Maya and Spanish. The work here is very hard, and because I told you that there aren't any Anglican church in the States. We are the only Anglican church. Anglican. We are the only Anglican church. My diocese is in territory. It's bigger than another diocese, but in presence we are about 1,000 people in all territory. It's complicated because we are the only we are here. The work it's complicated because we have a mainland neighbor, but they are conservative, Roman Catholic Church and Presbyterians. We are the only Anglican inclusive church for everything. For example, last week Bishop came to visit us as community, because we participate in the first pride parade of the town, because it's a Maya zone, and it's complicated. Work in pastoral caring for people here, for people of the diversity. Well, we are an inclusive and an inclusive church for all people. And my work is or the branding of the Anglican Church is that my purpose is to serve in Maya, because the other church in the here around me, they only preach the gospel in Spanish. But I am starting. I am the work in Maya language. It's complicated because the Book of Common Prayer in Spanish version have a lot of mistakes, and I am translating some parts of the BCP from English to Maya. It's interesting, the work, but well, we are here. I am 26 years, and it's all about.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Rick is going to tell us how he's divvied up the teams between Stephen and Phoebe. So what does that look like, Rick? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's just, yeah, it's not clicking. All right, just to make sure I have everybody, if I do not have anybody, please flail in front of your camera like you're on fire so I can see, okay? I have Mark, Chelsea, Drew, Christine, Amy, Ivan. Did I miss anybody that's participating? All right, I don't see any flailing. Good, so I'm doing this right. Okay, so we have two teams, Team Stephen and Phoebe, as John mentioned. We have 3 postulants and 3 deacons, and so to make it fair, I put one of our longer ordained deacons with the two of the postulants, and I put one of the postulants with the 2 other deacons. That way we have a little bit more, I don't want to say fairness, but a little bit different perspective and that kind of thing. So what you've been waiting for all day to find out what team you're on. Team Stephen is Mark, Chelsea, and Keith. And Team Phoebe is Drew, Amy, and Ivan. Did I get that right? I hope. Did I miss Christine?
No, yeah. Christine and Keith is a judge. So
Keith is a judge.
So swap them too.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was odd. All right. So let me make sure I got that right again. See, I knew I'd do this. I knew I'd mess this up. Okay. Stephen is Mark, Chelsea, and who did I say? Stephen. And no, it's Stephen, because Stephen is a judge. Give me 1 second, because I knew I'd mess this up. Mark, Chelsea, Drew, Christine, Amy, Ivan, correct?
Actually, I think Stephen's a martyr.
Okay.
There's a good deacon joke.
There you go.
Wow.
All right. Put yourself back on mute. If we wanted that kind of stuff. All right. So anyways, it's Mark, Chelsea, and Christine. That's what I did. I made some adjustments and I can't read my own adjustments. So Mark, Chelsea, Christine, there's Team Stephen, the martyr. And Team Drew, Phoebe is Drew, Amy, and Ivan. I think I got that right now. Cool. All right.
All right. So what's going to happen is, you're going to be sent to your rooms. You're going to have 5 minutes. Rick will keep track of the time, and then at 4 minutes, he's gonna send the message that's going to say, "Join main room." So that gives you a 60-second countdown, and then you'll come back to debate. The first topic for debate, as you can probably allude to, because we've kind of hinted, so it's kind of a good warm-up round, is we are going to debate direct ordination. I.e., you know that priests get ordained to the transitional diaconate, and there has been substantial debate in General Convention about whether or not priests should be directly ordained to the priesthood and not have transitional deacons. So, Team Stephen, you will be for direct ordination, and Team Phoebe, you will argue against direct ordination. Got it? All right. We'll see y'all in your rooms.
All right. Just adding you guys right now.
All righty.
All right.
Okay, so
Yvonne is still here.
okay, and then there we go. All right.
We
So
should
while
all
we're
be in lines
waiting,
now. Yeah.
while we're waiting, so my question that I want to over the next 5 minutes explore with y'all is, what do you think is the main thing impacting deacons today? What is the one burning issue you think that's impacting our the ministry of deacons today?
If I can
Go for it. Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is not the fact that we are non-stipendiary, but the understanding of what non-stipendiary is varies widely from diocese to diocese. And in one case, it's a full-time job, which happens to be unpaid. The canonical understanding on the national level is that it is 8 to 10 hours of work. And I wish I had known that while I was in formation, because I was like, oh my God, what am I signing up for? A full-time job, no pay? Even as a retired person, I don't want that. So, but that's not what it is at all. 8 to 10 hours.
It's when you're lay, most of us were probably doing 8 to 12 hours when we were lay doing, and that's not excessive. But if it can be very exploitive. And with my students, I'm always telling them, oh, but there's so much more to do. I said, you can do diaconal work, but not for your congregation after that. There's so much work out there. But if you need to really limit what you do, because it can be exploitive.
Oh, Jen.
And also, Keith?
Jen Gruel was really helpful with this. She said, look, this is the way it works in this diocese. You have a letter of agreement. Not all dioceses do. It will lay out what your things are, and it's just not a lot of hours. After that, your hours are your own. You can let it expand, but if you look at the letter for my diocese, the Diocese of Olympia, it's quite clear that you need to take 24 hours off a week, that you have a sabbatical coming every 3 years, and basically that we're in charge. We answer to the bishop, as all deacons do, but we can say, these are my ministries, this is what I want, this is what I'm proposing. And for oversight, the bishop signs off on those letters.
So John, I would say, just listening to Keith, because our bishop just met with the deacons yesterday, and basically we did have a very well-defined letter of agreement. She's totally eliminated that. And without ever consulting, she just decided, having some sort of understanding, yes, we do answer to the bishop, but there should be some common standards across tech about what it means to be a deacon. And, that, yes, in theory, you have the power to do whatever you want. It's not necessarily wise to use that. That there are some common understandings. We have a very new bishop. I'm sure she's learning and trying to adjust, but there already are resources that people can, bishops, I wonder why they more don't consult with AED, for example, about the diaconate. Where do they get their information about the diaconate? Is it from one deacon they know? Is it from, so I would say that so like Keith, we had a great letter of agreement, and that outlined exactly what you said, and it's been eliminated now. And she thinks it's liberating. She generally thinks that it's.
Yeah.
And I said, well, for one thing, it doesn't say hours, and and a lot of people will not understand, even though I tell students all the time, 8 to 12 hours is non-exploitive. It always could be exploitive, but if we're non-stipend, and there's no reason we are also there's no reason to be non-stipendiary. It is not a rule. It is absolutely not a rule, but it is usually the case.
Well, it is, if you're looking at the canons, at the national canons, it's quite clear. But
no, no, it isn't.
What they mean by non-stipendiary, it is there, but they mean liturgies, the equivalent of a supply priest. There is no such thing as a supply deacon, and that is all they mean by secondary.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I meant by there's no rule that the deacons have to be non-stipendiary. That's what I'm saying.
Because they've expanded the understanding of supply deacon and getting paid like $125 to do a sermon. they've expanded that to deacons don't get paid at all. There I happen to disagree, but the canon law is quite clear that for liturgies itself, we don't get paid. I can pull up that if you want, not right now, but I can pull that up for you if you'd like.
Oh, Leslie, you had something to say on the matter.
In the diocese that I've been in, all three of them, there has always been kind of, and not necessarily all priests, but a kind of a, whether it comes from the bishop or other lay people, that the concern that deacons don't become mini priests. And so in the Diocese of Georgia, for example, 20 years ago, there was a movement that you didn't call deacons the reverend whatever. You called them deacon whatever, because, you know, we didn't want them to be confused for priests, which many of us who were priests were really offended by. And to the point where, you know, I've been in dioceses where there was an attempt to say that deacons shouldn't be allowed to vote at diocesan convention. And when we said they're clergy and they participate as clergy, then there was a, well, okay, they technically are allowed to have a vote, but if they're really a true servant deacon, they won't actually vote. And
that's such bullshit. Sorry. Bullshit. Sorry, not you, Leslie. That view.
You know, I didn't say that in the diocesan conventions, but I said that a lot. And I agree to the letter of agreement. I mean, frankly, some of our really heavy lay volunteers should also have some type of letter of agreement. The problem for the deacon not having a letter of agreement is the parish trying to make them do way more than they have time for or that they're called for. And it's good for not just the deacon, but it's good for the parish to have those boundaries. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. It is very complicated for, and I have a lot of empathy for my new bishop. It is trying to figure this all out. It's hard. And, you know, and all the changes that occur. And we talk about white fragility, priest fragility, maybe sometimes, unfortunately, but most priests are great. Thank God.
All right.
Loud.
Well, we're gonna stop there. We want to welcome back our debaters. And so the first team to go up will be Team Stephen making an argument for direct ordination. So Team Stephen, over to you.
Okay, I'm talking on behalf of Team Stephen.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. We are in support of direct ordination, firstly because the transitional diaconate makes people and the laity and even ordained people very confused about what the order of deacons is supposed to be about. We know that the order of deacons is about making up for people who are on the margins, as we know from the story of Acts, and first deacons being charged with making sure that widows are being taken care of. And the transitional diaconate sets up deacons as being mini priests who are just passing through on their way to bigger and better things. But deacons aren't ordering themselves. We are bigger and better things. And the transitional diaconate, which we have if we don't have direct ordination, sets up the 4 orders of ministry, laity, deacons, bishops, priests as being a ladder. And because of that, it makes the role of the laity seem less important and deacons less important, and it makes it seem like you're working up a hierarchy like a corporate ladder, and that's not what our church is about. Everybody is important in their role. I'm not sure what else to say, actually.
All right. Well, if you're done, then we can turn it over to Team Phoebe.
Yep, I'm done.
All right, Team Phoebe, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Team Phoebe against the direct ordination and in favor of transitional ordination. We feel it is important for the transitional diaconate to be an essential part of the process, or an essential process, I should say. It helps to understand the full scope of the clerical role, you have a degree of mobility, you have a degree of freedom in the diaconate that I believe it is really important to understand before moving into the priesthood. From a managerial standpoint, since deacons, they answer directly to the bishop, but they're often in sort of the support role of a priest. And so for a priest to understand what just beyond sort of what the Book of Common Prayer says about kind of the differences between the roles, it's important to have experienced that. It's important to have had that focus on the most vulnerable, the most marginalized people, so that when you do inevitably experience as a priest or a bishop that separation that comes, it's important to remember that those communication lines are still there, and to be able to really understand with that firsthand experience what the role of the diaconate can be and can do for the church. Priests they need to know how to support their deacons. I can understand the argument of it kind of being a ladder, or having the transitional diaconate mean that there may be a dearth of deacons. However, it also, I think, helps to keep the diaconate fresh, if that makes any sense. In order to to have it be part of an understanding that you may even be required in some ways to experience the life of a deacon before before transitioning to priesthood. I think that it helps alleviate that misnomer, that idea that it is an ascension, but rather it is a transition to a different set of duties that does not preclude or become more important than the diaconate. Thank you.
All right, Team Stephen, you have a 2-minute rebuttal.
If I could go first, sorry, my video is going in and out, but one of the things that you talked about was that you felt like it was appropriate to have sort of a ladder approach. But the thing is, we already have such a station as the curacy, and the curacy is the purpose. That has that purpose already, that training into the priesthood, that training into those pieces. What it doesn't have is necessarily the specific obligation to be the light of Christ in the world. And it doesn't have the specific obligation to be the caretaker of widows and orphans. And so I feel like if you're working on a training program, curacy is a more appropriate route to give you that same stepped in approach that Drew was advocating, and Team Phoebe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Drew specifically, but Team Phoebe was advocating for. We have a curacy, it has a purpose. We should appropriately use the curacy instead of treating diaconate as though we're still in training. I'm already out doing the ministry that I was called to do, and I feel that that ministry is important in the world and important to the body of Christ.
All right, thank you. Team Phoebe, closing remarks.
All right. If my teammates don't have any specific remarks, I can go ahead and close that out. Yes, thank you for those remarks. And indeed, yes, the curacy does have that purpose of training into the priesthood, and also making sure that the widows, the orphans, the most marginalized among us do have a constant source of hope and kind of communication with the church is all very important as well. I can only speak from my own experience. Curacy has not been an avenue that's been sort of talked about a whole lot in my discernment process, and so I know that we're in need of deacons. This, just speaking from my own perspective, and we're always in need of deacons. I think that the emphasis should be on making sure that it is not a ladder. I feel like I misspoke when I sort of said that earlier. And so changing the understanding to make it known that these are equal ministries should be the focus.
All right, thank you. All right, so what's going to happen now is we're going to go ahead and get into round two, and then I'll announce what the scores from the last round is when you come back, so that way it gives the judges a little time to work on their calculation. But round two, so Phoebe will go first. You will argue for deacons to have stipends, and Team Stephen, you will argue against deacons having stipends from the church. And with that, we'll go ahead and open up the rooms. Okay.
And I noticed that Yvonne asked if anybody spoke Castellano. Phyllis, do you speak fluent Spanish?
You're on mute,
He may,
Phyllis.
he may be needing some help. So he did ask that question in the chat.
Okay. All righty. So what I'm going to ask you to do as judges is once you've come up with your total of your average, it's an average score. So so you should only have one score per team, Stephen and Phoebe. If you want to just put that in the chat. So you just say like Stephen 5, Phoebe 5, and that'll help us see. And you can put that in the chat, and then I can record that.
So, and what we're doing is we're doing 1 to 5 in each of them, and then in each.
And then it's and then it becomes an average.
Own score.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Just making sure.
And so while you're doing that, so we can also have a conversation of maybe what are some of the things maybe you heard in the last debate? What were some of your own thoughts?
Yeah, I was curious how many I require my students to read Tom Breidenthal's article, Exodus from Privilege, which is about the transitional diaconate. It's a really good argument in favor of the transitional diaconate, and I tend to not be in favor of it. So I would wonder how many of you read that while you were in formation or have read it since. It was an Anglican Theological Review. Judging by all the, hey, of course. No, okay.
I would be interested.
I will send that. So John, you've got a list of everyone on this call. Everything. So if I'll send a reference to you, and if you could share it, because I do think that's a really good article. And because so there's always good arguments. If everything were clear cut, we would be I'll have the answers right now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, interesting. 3 of us are all from the same school for deacons. So yeah, Stephen and Phyllis and I all went to the same school. So
right.
Yeah, and so it is interesting. So what would you say some of the hallmarks in the argument for is in the article?
Okay, Keith, you just put it just
I see what I did.
You want to do it. I really like the rebuttal, by the way. I thought that was a really cogent rebuttal. And a good argument. I mean, it's one that but I have to admit, I tend to be very much for direct ordination, so it's challenging to find. I may be not the best judge in doing this.
Yeah. It's all in fun.
Yeah, of course.
One more time.
It also seems to me that the majority of transitional deacons don't work with a deacon.
Right.
So
right.
They're really kind of student priests, not, and then we'll go on to say.
That's the
And I think the best, my experience has been very few seminaries actually take time to talk about the diaconate in any meaningful way.
Mhm.
In fact, I've been told they don't have enough time. There's so much to learn. And I go, well, they're going to be deacons and they're going to work with deacons. So
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best arguments I've heard for it, I myself am definitely for direct ordination, and that includes deacon to bishop. No, that's not something I really think about. But one of my arguments for direct ordination is that they are different calls, and that therefore you should be able to go one path or the other path. And if someone does have the unique call of being both pastoral and a diaconal, then they should go through a process in which they declare that and get ordained twice, but without the idea of a transition. Because that, for me, that brings up the idea of a little priest. But I talked to Brooks Bolin, who some of you may know, and Brooks really enjoyed his time as a transitional deacon because he said the diaconate is the foundation of the priesthood. And so
that's Breidenthal's argument.
Yep. And so I thought, so I'm thinking that was something that spoke to me. Also, I need to do a correction. Maureen is quite correct. I did a search of the canons. I don't even know why I took on Maureen Hagen of all people. What was I thinking? I used to be a university professor. And so I'm breaking away from that arrogance that we always have as professors. So
I used to be in academia myself, and I often am a little bit, because I expect people to disagree with me. I say things strongly, and I'm not always right. I know that. It's the way I engage debate, which is not a great way to engage conversation.
Especially it's not collegial, so my apologies.
All right, well, want to welcome everyone back. The score stands right now. Team Stephen has an average of 3.9 and Team Phoebe is at 3.14. And that's a pretty easy thing to catch up with. So with that, Team Phoebe will go first. So let's hear what your argument.
Okay, so as deacons, having a stipend would alleviate a lot of pressure of working deacons to establish their ministry while trying to provide an income for themselves or their family. Especially if you're working in the secular world, finding that time to be of service to the church and to live into your vocational ministry as a deacon is quite challenging. So having that stipend would allow some freedom to not feel you are being pulled between work and ministry and family. You get to you get a 3-year-old who runs in and is playing. So you have the opportunity. You also have a little bit more freedom. Excuse me, baby. I need you to be quiet. Just a moment. Okay, thank you. To forgive me. He's been outside this whole time. So go get a towel. Go get a towel. In the bathroom. Okay. I can't wrap myself. Okay, bring it to me. I'm so sorry. Oh, that timer keeps ticking. So anyway, in order to establish our ministries and perhaps to be able to do more in that role in the world, it would give us the opportunity to actually complete that ministry instead of Anderson, baby. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Just wait. So well, that's primarily that's it. I don't have to choose between whether I bring my family or leave them at home, trying to arrange for childcare. And the average age of the deacon being, what was it, 66? That's retirement age. And so that affords a lot of freedom with time and energy And we are seeing we are seeing a lot of pressure on the young deacon. I am the youngest deacon in my diocese, and I know that it is definitely a challenge to get things up and running. So that's my
Well, thank
part.
you. Thank you. All right, let's hear from Stephen.
Hi, so I'm going to be representing Team Stephen in the argument against a stipend for the diaconate. And so one story that I would share, and I really think it all comes down to, again, we're supposed to represent the light of Christ in the world. And Christ wandered around the area that he was in through faith in the hospitality and the opportunity for people to provide hospitality to him. He allowed them to minister in their way through hospitality. And so I have felt very strongly that the diaconate is supposed to lean into that somewhat, to not have a stipend behind us, to really lean into trusting the laity, trusting the people to do what they need to do to help support us in that ministry. And that isn't necessarily in the form of a stipend. Perhaps it's inviting you out to dinner. Perhaps it is making sure that you have the supplies that you need to make sure that the ministry is done. Perhaps it's providing childcare. But everyone deserves their opportunity to minister as well. And by not providing us with a stipend, but instead providing the laity with opportunities to minister to us so that we can do what we're called to do, we're really opening up that ministry for them. I would also share that through seminary, I met quite a few people who were serving in Africa and had a very different process than what we have here in the US. And their process was essentially a short way to get into the diaconate. And once they were ordained a deacon, their job was to walk in faith and walk into a new village or a new mission field and create a space for church there with nothing but the clothes on their backs, essentially. Many of them literally walking, not driving, just walking into the village and setting up a ministry. And to put faith forward into that ministry that other people were going to be interested in the word of Christ, that they were going to want to support that person there and that church there, and to raise up a whole church, a whole mission in that area. And until they'd proven that they could do that, they weren't even eligible to be sent to a formal seminary in that particular way. So it was sort of the reverse of what we do here in the United States. And I think from that ministry approach, I think I've learned a lot. I think it can be difficult to sustain. So you as a deacon have to continue to talk about what it is that you do. You have to continue to bring up the things that you need to be a part of so that they understand and everyone understands that there's an opportunity. But I think we need to lean into that with faith.
All right, thank you. All right, so Team Stephen, rebuttal.
Team Phoebe, yes.
I'm sorry, Team Phoebe. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to make sure. I love the idea of really leaning into the faith of the people to do their parts into laity. However, we are a society that is blinded and plagued by technology. We continue to have to do greater things to get the attention of others. And yes, those small pieces of kindness and beauty that we see in others and in relying in their faith is not as visible right now in our society, in our culture. We are at a complete divide where we see arguments against masks and for masks, arguments against vaccines and for vaccines, and we're blinded by the argument and there's no connection. And unfortunately, if we're having to focus solely on working to afford to live a normal life and to not be destitute in this culture, it does require funds in order for us to dedicate more time so that we can penetrate those walls and have the discussion, maybe tone down the anger and the rhetoric, and dedicate that time to opening dialogue and having civil discourse. And without the financial support, diving into that civil discourse is more challenging because you're doing it outside of normal working hours. You're doing it at the expense of spending time with your family or your loved ones. And yes, we lean on our communities, but we're also having to pay more and to do more for our church communities, even just to have buildings. So money is a challenging resource that could serve deacons in a very tangible way that could affect the entire diaconate in a beautiful and robust way.
Thank you. Team Stephen, closing remarks.
So when there's stipends, obviously it comes from somewhere, right? So it's going to come from the church budget. So at the end of the day, you're taking money from the church that could be used in a lot of other ways. And like Christina was saying, if, you know, there is a lot of wonderful people that will assist, right, within the church. And that's how the church grows. That's how it's grown since the beginning, by people helping. When Jesus walked through the land, those helped. People donated things, people helped. So when you're doing the work of the Lord and you're shining in the light of the Lord, people will help you when you need help, for sure, whether you ask for it or not. Nobody went around asking for anything back then. They didn't ask for a thing, and people provided. So if you're taking money from the church budget to have a stipend each month, that could start to really make difficult conversations and difficult decisions, and it does turn it into a little bit more of a business than what it should be, especially at times like this where the churches unfortunately aren't doing as well post-COVID. It is getting a little bit difficult, and you could certainly get cut out of the budget as well, and that is very difficult. I mean, you're going to definitely have some ill feelings towards people if they say to you, well, unfortunately, we got to cut the stipend from XYZ to a lower number. Where if it's just people doing things out of the nature of their heart and providing assistance when needed for different things, it would certainly help. Me personally would have never even considered a stipend, nor would I want to take it if it was offered to me, just because when I received my call into this process, I knew it had to come directly from my heart. And if I'm not able to fulfill it, then, you know, I'd have to figure out a way. And I just believe in figuring out a way always. And by faith in Christ, there is a way.
All righty, thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, we're going to open up the rooms for round 3. Team Stephen will go first this time. You will argue in favor. Some dioceses do allow deacons masses, and some dioceses and bishops frown on deacons masses. So Team Stephen, you will argue for the use of deacons masses, and Team BB, you will argue against deacons masses.
At least you gave them very easy things to do.
All right. Oh, and we looks like we got another person. Rick, if you want to add Adam to one of the teams, it looks he's a latecomer.
Hey there. I'm not actually a deacon. I'm in discernment, but I'm happy to observe.
That's perfect.
That's
Well, we have some discernment people on teams, so
yeah, I'll add you on. You are now officially team Stephen. So what side do you win? Ooh, I do not want to add myself to Steam. No.
All right, Adam, you should be able to go join your team. Thanks. All right, so judges, if you want to put your score in the chat, and you can also, while we're waiting, talk about what you heard and what are some of your own thoughts. Phyllis, unmute. Yeah, I can tell you're ready to talk.
I know Maureen has heard this story. I don't know if you have, John, but I applied for, while I was still a student, I applied for a position as a Spanish liaison to families and family ministry. And I was real excited about it. And I thought I was an excellent candidate and that they should pick me. Maureen, you're smiling. Their job offer to me was to pay me until I was ordained, and then I would be non-stipendiary. And I thought, I don't think I've heard of a much more exploitative plan than that.
Didn't you also get offered to be paid in chickens in Guatemala?
Oh, well, I have been paid in chicken in Guatemala. Just one chicken, one chicken.
I have shared that story, Phyllis, but not the name.
A question about this for judging purposes.
Mm-hmm.
These are new topics to them. This is the first time they've heard which side they're going to be on and what they're arguing for or against. As usual, but I just want to confirm. Okay.
It, depending on what they've done, this might be something they've talked about a lot or not at all. And so for some,
Yep.
I mean, I've got really great arguments against my positions for everything. So, I mean, but luckily I'm not sharing those.
Okay, whoever has the radio or whatever the background noise is, can they turn it off?
I think it's Maureen.
It's Rob's watching the Tour de France. I can't turn it off.
I think, it's an interesting topic because it's one that's been discussed forever and ever with stipendiary deacons, but really we're getting, Province 4 is getting ready to have a conference before the bishops meet in November about bivocational priests. I mean, this isn't a question of should deacons have stipends, it's churches are going to be increasingly unable to afford any clergy, and dioceses are increasingly not going to be able to afford a full-time bishop even. So I think this is a really important discussion to have because I think it impacts not just deacons, but anyone who is doing professional ministry in any order.
Yeah. When I was first ordained, I did receive a stipend. That was primarily because I argued that youth ministers get paid, and they wanted me to do youth ministry on top of being a deacon. So that's how I kind of skirted and made the argument for getting stipend. It has been interesting. I believe 2 dioceses last year passed resolutions to actually require stipends for deacons. And the main reason is at a minimum level, you get into the church pension group. And I understand there are 3 or 4 dioceses this year that are also copying these resolutions, including my own diocese, California, about stipending deacons to get deacons at least the minimal benefits of what CPG offers.
Because if you don't do that, then what will happen is we'll end up with, in fact, the diaconate we have. A mostly older, mostly retired, people who have their own insurance, people who have their own pensions from other jobs. Partially it's that we have to do a better education of exactly what non-stipendiary is. That really was not explained at all well to me. But it's also, there are injustices. I argued because I was assigned to campus ministry. I argued that I should have had a stipend because the first person who had done it had a stipend, lay person. The second person who had done it a layperson, had gotten it. The third person who had done it was a curate and got it. The fourth person who did it got one, and I was the deacon, so I didn't get one. I'm like, why were all those other people good enough? What was going on? And it was also to a mission I did not feel called to, but the bishop put me there, so I did my best. But
Keith, that's what I think too. It depends. I mean, there's been times I've been non-stipendiary, and that's fine. And there's other times, if you're doing something that you would normally get paid for, if you weren't a deacon, why would you not be paid because you're a deacon? That's
Right.
That's
the way I break it for me, because this is because I'm in a very privileged position, I can use, and I have been instructed that I can use by everybody involved in the process, that I can use it to keep my workload towards a minimum. As an ex-academic, we have to / love to overwork. And so it's good to say, yeah, no, this is well outside my 8 to 10 hours. I cannot take this on because we also have a statement in our letters of agreement about balance of life, the problems that families cause and how we have to keep that in balance, exercise, all sorts of things.
Well, I want to welcome back. Got to cut you off. We got our teams back, and so I believe Team Stephen, you are up.
Okay, so Team Stephen is for Deacon Mass. So that is going to be our argument, air quotes. So indefinitely for an emergency situation, I think it would be very much needed for a deacon to be able to perform Mass. Emergency situation could be anything from, I mean, we just went through a pandemic, someone gets sick, someone's ill, someone has to travel to see a loved one that may have become ill or passed, or just a tragic event that occurs in an area. If they needed someone ordained to lead Mass to help people, I 100% think that would be very helpful. There's vacations that occur, and sometimes finding someone to cover your parish is difficult, especially in certain areas. And then in other areas, could be 250 miles to the nearest church. So there may not be a priest available to perform the entire service and do the sacrament. And it would be nice to still be able to have people meet in church and a deacon to lead Mass and to hand out the sacrament. That's pretty blessed by a priest or a bishop. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Team Phoebe.
All right, I'll go ahead and speak for Team Phoebe. And Ivan, feel free to chime in because I'm going to call on your example. We actually have a wonderful example in Ivan, who is a deacon and yet is responsible for a parish. And so he's got very intimate experience with being responsible for both setting the table and for distributing, but of course not consecrating. So we are against deacons' masses because for a number of reasons, outside of, say, Good Friday, when we've already got kind of pre-consecrated host. For one, it's not part of the deacon's vows. And for that reason, it is not something that the diaconate should be made to concentrate on too easily. Or with very little difficulty. It definitely blurs the line between the diaconate and the priesthood, those two specific ministries. Not doing deacons' masses helps sort of strengthen the bond between the priesthood and the diaconate. They need each other. And in Ivan's case specifically, I think it really helps to strengthen the bond between the diaconate and the bishop, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ivan, your bishop is a pretty regular presence at the church that you administer. Am I right? Yeah. So
Yes.
it really, having that necessity rather than just relying on sort of the cheap labor of the diaconate to not only set the table but also dispense the host, really helps keep the communication in line. So yeah, all of those things. If we're going to talk about not, having a stipend for the deacon, I think it's just as important to recognize the parameters of a deacon's call and a deacon's ministry as opposed to a priest.
All right, Team Stephen, do you have a rebuttal?
I'll chime in and say that while I agree with you that we don't want to abuse Deacon's Mass, and I have seen it abused, and I was very thankful for my bishop in Diocese of Springfield, Illinois, Bishop Dan Martins, who really stepped in and said, hey, we're not going to abuse deacons and have them be junior priests. If you are going to be a priest, go be a priest. And if you are not going to be a priest, please be a deacon. So he really did step in and stop that abuse of that, I think, in becoming the substitute priest. But there's a difference between using an authorized rite, which, by the way, it is in the prayer book. So if it's authorized by the prayer book, I think we need to think about how General Convention really considered that. And General Convention did say that this was something that is acceptable after multiple revisions and figuring all of that out. They put it right there in the prayer book, so it's there. I think that there's a difference between abusing that position as a way to just cut costs as a church and actually using it as a way to make sure that everyone has access to communion on a regular basis. And really, I think that's what it comes down to, is you need to make sure that all communed Christians have access to communion on a regular basis.
All right, Team Phoebe, closing remarks.
Closing remarks. So Deacon's Mass is a colloquial term used for communion from the reserved sacrament. It is not something that only a deacon can perform, but actually a trained layperson can also perform. And perhaps our group looked at this as a continuing tradition within a community where the deacon is serving, or as you called it, Christine, abusing the situation. I do feel that if it is something that is being used regularly, that the needs of that congregation need to be looked at further, and this is a responsibility of the episcopate. That the needs of the people, they need a pastor of sorts, and that is not in the vows of the deacon. The deacon is to assist the priests and to assist the bishops in distributing the sacraments. However, it is not something that should rely on deacons when the priest is not present. It should be a ministry that is presented to the broader community, and we can raise up lay people to do the same thing.
Awesome, thank you. I did forget to announce the results from round two. Team Stephen on round two got 3.8 and Team Phoebe got 3.9 for their scoring. With that, we'll go into round four. And round four, the topic is, should deacons be allowed to perform weddings? So Team Stevie will argue against performing weddings, and Team Phoebe will argue for weddings, and Team Phoebe will be the first up when we come back. So we will open up the rooms again, and good luck.
I agree with the person who said that this has been really fun. Thank you, John, for doing this. I've really enjoyed listening to other people's views. It's actually making me think a lot, and I like the fact that they let the episcopate make this decision to some extent. when one person said the major challenge with deacons doing or the liturgy, all the stuff that they do is it does help people, especially we believe in communion, but the challenge is that we lose the role of the deacon.
Yes.
You lose a person who gets the people involved in mission. What is a distinctive voice of the deacon? And I thought that's an argument that I am working with. And
Any other thoughts? Oh, don't forget to put your scores in the chat when you get a chance. Any other thoughts?
Well, I just put this in the text, but I want to thank you for making me the Zoom person because it makes me shut up and listen more.
What is the current policies in your own various dioceses about doing a deacon's mass in your parish?
Just I have to have a good reason, and the bishop has to give me the okay.
you know, it's a good idea to find out because I just assumed we were against it because there was such a strong thing by one of the bishops. And our last bishop, I had said, of course, we don't do it. And he said, oh, I never said that. And I go, what? But our new bishop, I believe, she really stressed the deacons have distinctive order. And she really wants to honor both of the distinctive orders. So I'm thinking that she probably would not be in favor of it, but I don't know. That issue has not come up.
It's not allowed in the Diocese of San Joaquin currently. Now, I wanted to chime in on a couple of things. First of all, yeah, I'm going to kind of revert back to some of the stuff we've already talked about and just sort of identify that I'm leading a parish there in San Joaquin, and I'm non-stipendiary and also running a mission. And you were asking about how many hours that we're putting in. I'm probably putting in about 35 to almost 40 hours and not getting paid for any of that. Plus working a full-time job as a cartoonist. So it's all of this is a lot of time, a lot of energy, but I'm also hearing the story that we should be doing this out of the kindness of our heart because this is a mission for God. I certainly understand all of that. When it comes to stipend, I see a need to say that the time that we as deacons we're putting our time and energy into what we're doing, and our time should be valued. And we should be paid for the value of the time that we're putting into this, regardless. Even if we have a layperson, we may pay a layperson to take care of some of the work that's being done within the parish. But if we're just saying that the deacon is non-stipendiary, then we're just saying that we're just not going to honor them with paying, because the role of what we're asking to do falls under that context. But I think all of us should be at least honored for the work that we're putting into our role, and particularly if we, as I said, I'm running a parish, I'm doing a mission, and I think we should consider offering something for the benefit of what we're doing there. May not be much. I mean, even if it's just a token payment, just something that says we appreciate what you are doing.
Yeah, almost always when somebody is making the argument of deacons should never be given a stipend, no matter, kind of how much they're doing in the church, because, they say theologically, deacons weren't paid and there should be focusing on, servant ministry and therefore shouldn't get paid. Almost always is code for we want cheap labor. So often, I really think, and I say that as a priest who, I was so sad to see John go, but how often does a deacon have a chance to have a full-time paid job as a deacon? Unfortunately, it is the.
and it does depend on, in most denominations, deacons are paid, but they also are working full time. So it really does depend. Like I said, when I only doing 8 to 12 hours, I don't really feel that's a burden. I do like the minimum $25 thing, so you get in church pension group, of course, but to say that we're all called to servant ministry, everyone, priests and deacons, and to say that we're not truly called or something because we think of money. Well, are you saying that priests aren't truly called? I mean, they need money too. I mean, I don't think that they are any less valuable because we paid them. I could be wrong, but I mean, I think priests are very valuable.
All right. Well, we want to welcome back our crew, and I believe Team Phoebe, you are up to bat.
All right. We didn't get to decide who might present the case, but is everybody okay with me doing that? So we are charged with being in favor of deacons, performing weddings. And I feel like it's a very easy, sort of almost open and shut case, if I may. The prayer book makes it very clear when a deacon is able to perform a wedding. And the first thing it says is where it is permitted by civil law that deacons may perform marriages. That's the very first line, and then it goes on to say, and no priest or bishop is available. A deacon may use the service. Now, available has, a number of different connotations. Obviously, physically available is kind of what we go to in that definition. However, consider an interim priest who may be at the beginning or the end of their tour, and there's just other things. There are other, one could argue, more important duties than the marriage of two people. I would say in this case that a deacon, it would be the appropriate choice, especially if the deacon were already invested heavily in the community. Ivan is another really great example of this, being a deacon in charge and having only a bishop to rely on. If that bishop is charged with doing weddings, then that probably puts an undue strain on the bishop's schedule. So being able to perform weddings as a deacon, I believe it has more applications than just when no priest or bishop is available. It's also deacons and priests and bishops are all equally ordained, and so also vested with that same sense of divine power. And if we get down to the heart of the matter, a wedding is one of, I think, the most human sacraments, and the special role of a deacon being concerned with being that bridge between the I guess you could say the secular world or the human world and the divine. I think that a wedding or the power to do weddings is an extremely powerful sacrament that deacons should absolutely have full power to do.
All right, thank you. To Stephen.
I'll be speaking for us on this one. Thank you. So I'm glad that Drew brought up the prayer book, because that's what we think is important too. And the fact is that the prayer book says when a priest or bishop is not available. And I just don't think that maybe, I don't know how long this is happening. Some people are friends with deacons. They might have a stronger personal relationship with deacons than with certain priests. But that isn't really what it says. It says if a priest is not available. And I am surprised to hear Drew take this in the direction of maybe the priests or bishops are just too busy to do a wedding. Because I mean, what were we talking about? Deacons not being junior priests. I mean, so they're taking the weddings that the priests don't have time for. I mean, if that's literally what's happening in certain emergency cases, I think that's different from what we're talking about, which is a sort of a changing the practice where it wouldn't just be when actually there is nobody else available, and it's like you have to get married now. You can't schedule your time for when the priest is going to be available. The people are supposed to be married by the church. It's not about the personality, although that's often what people prefer, but that's not how we understand the sacrament. And I just don't think that in very many cases a bishop or priest is truly unavailable. And I think we should respect the intent of the prayer book in making that a very, very rare exception.
Thank you. Do we have a rebuttal?
Yeah, I don't mind making a short rebuttal. I'm really glad to see you. Adam and I are great friends, and yeah, and he is obviously extremely well spoken, and he's oh man, I love your mind. I think that it's important to consider every aspect of the word available, and I think that maybe not if not the personality, but the bond between a deacon and a couple or a deacon and a community should be certainly taken into consideration, definitely more than personality. And I love what you said. Yeah, you make a really good point. A couple is married by the church. And in that regard, deacons, priests, bishops, if we're all to be seen as sort of co-equal, I think that this is one instance that could be made a really good example.
All right, closing remarks.
I would say that since we're agreement on the people being married by the church, then it's important to respect the way that the church has comported itself on this question and take our direction from the language in the prayer book as it is, and not as we perhaps wish it were.
All right, well, thank you. All right, so we're going to move into our final round. Doom, doom, doom. And so the next topic is going to be, should deacons be in charge of a parish? Team Stephen will go first in this round, and they will argue against deacons being allowed to be in charge of a parish. And Team Phoebe, you will argue for deacons being in charge of a parish. And with that, you may go to your dedicated rooms. So,
I'm surprised no one mentioned blessing.
Oh, bless. Well, we actually, Rick and I did think of that as a topic, because Rick and I were the ones that kind of came up with the topics.
Yeah, but for weddings, is that a deacon can't give the blessing at the wedding. That's why I've heard is the number one reason.
I had a bishop, my bishop and I had a long talk about that when I did my first wedding, and he said, turn it in front. I came up with the idea, he liked it. Turn it, instead of I bless this, to we ask for your blessing on this, because it's really this that's the big hang up, the ring. Now there's the blessing, the post blessing, which is a little different too, but everything except that, I mean, the blessing of the ring was the hardest thing to deal with, and just acts the post blessing, and it was fine for us.
Leslie, you looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
What's interesting to me, and what I talk to couples about, is that marriage is the one sacrament that it's not actually done by the officiant. It's done by the couple. It's between the sacrament, the outward visible sign are the vows and the giving and exchanging of rings. They marry each other. So, when I come to this question here, there's always this bit of, well, that changes the dynamic to me, because it's about the blessing and you know, kind of how is that understood by the couple? How is that understood by the parish, the diocese, kind of all of that. But I always tell the couple, I'm not marrying you. You're marrying each other. I just happen to be the chief witness that, you know, gets to say, you know, mazel tov to you. So.
John, this makes me think, you know, having Leslie here is very helpful to talk things out between deacons and priests about how they view things. I do cross-order formation, which I think is very valuable, but it would be great to have more of these conversations, and you can understand what people think about. You may not end up agreeing, but that's okay.
I thank y'all for your hospitality with me today, because this is a great discussion.
The funny thing about the agreement thing, Maureen, is that if we agreed, we wouldn't need a House of Bishops. We wouldn't need, you know, regular clericus meetings. We just have it all taken care of. So I for one, love, here I am saying I like to have to be able to shut up and hear I'm talking. But the half hour before our service starts at St. Mary's House where I serve, the priest who was my sponsoring presbyter, no less, and I have these conversations all the time, and it gives me better. And he was in charge of our Com D. We have a Com P and a Com D in our diocese. So I love this. This is great.
I agree. I engage in these, and I like hearing more about it. And it's really interesting to hear people's views, and because we all have to be open to listening to what other people think. And it's going to be different. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Southeast Florida might be just a little bit different.
You should try Louisiana. It was fun though.
And you know, it is interesting. You know, I've served in 3 dioceses, and everyone's been a little bit different. Like when I think about the marriage topic, I remember Bishop Eaton. He was very clear that marriages are performed by priests, and his definition of availability was, you can't tell me you can't find a priest anywhere in the Miami metro to do this. and if it doesn't work at your parish, then you go to the next parish and get a priest, you know. And that's kind of what his take on it was. And then, you know, I do remember in the Diocese of California, for example, I didn't get the job. I didn't end up getting a job, but I remember interviewing at Grace Cathedral, and they're like, well, if we hire you, you know, we have a shortage of priests. We have a lot of weddings. You will need to do weddings. And they were very clear. The cathedral didn't care what the bishop had to say. They were like, you're going to do weddings. Because that's a moneymaker for the cathedral.
Well, and it varies in you know, it's not just from diocese to diocese. A diocese itself can change quite dramatically, as some of you are already seeing, when a new bishop comes on. You know, you know, it can make a huge difference. And sometimes the kind of theological whiplash from a bishop who kind of teaches sometimes for years one way, and the new bishop comes on board, and even if it takes a year or two, it's like, no, we're going polar opposite way. It's quite interesting to see from the outside. Living in it can be hard.
As a new deacon, I'm learning the balance between what the Book of Common Prayer says, what the canons say, and what my bishop tells me to do. And my bishop is extremely reasonable and has been quite helpful to a new deacon, and Jen, our archdeacon, even more so, just because it's her job to talk to us and she's my mentor. One word that I noticed didn't come up in the conversation that I thought it would, because it's all over the Book of Common Prayer, is normally. A bishop or priest normally presides at the marriage celebration. That's 422. So that makes it clear. Deacons may. Now a bishop can say, yeah, but, and I'm still trying to work out that balance. I mean, if my bishop definitely said, you cannot,
You got those words down. I'm thinking there's a canon lawyer in you somewhere.
Ex-rhetoric professor. Thank you.
All righty. It looks like we got our debaters back for the final round. Want to welcome back. Before we go into the final debate, just want to give you the update. This is the total cumulative score for all 4 rounds. Team Stephen, you are at 4.1, and Team Phoebe, you are at 3.6. That's still easy to catch up this round. So with that, we will turn it over to Team Stephen.
I just forgot what I was supposed to talk about. I literally, my mind went blank. What's the topic? I'm sorry.
Is there a teammate that can help her out?
So we're against deacons being in charge of a congregation.
Aha, thank you. Okay, we're against deacons being in charge of congregations. Partly because deacons are also having jobs. It would be a ton of work. And a lot of priests have more time available to dedicate it because they're paid. And also, it's not a deacon's role. As far as we understand what a deacon's role should be, our role is more to be focused on sending the world out and getting lay people involved in seeking justice and peace, and not as many of like the caregiving pastoral care type roles that a priest is called to be a part of. We're not supposed to be looking at the finances of the church and worrying about what happens if the water heater breaks and stuff like that. We should be supposed to be focused on other things. And we're also supposed to be supporting the priest when we can and setting the table, but it's not our role to do all of the whole thing unless there's an emergency or something. And that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. Team Phoebe.
Okay, so I think one of the things that's important to recognize here is that the times of the church are changing. We have less people who are wanting to or willing to be raised up into ordained ministry. We have the opportunity for vocational priests and vocational deacons, and I think that they can oh, and my headphones are dying, so if my audio changes for a moment, forgive me. But that we should not discount the call of the individual. A deacon, while perhaps has not gotten the formal training of a priest, they also can be trained, and they can have that special pastoral relationship with the people. There are deacons who are well suited to serve the church community as a leader of the congregation, and there are priests who are not well suited. They are more suited to serve the bishops, serve the bishopric. And so the priest, as far as what the priest role is, yes, they have a lot of behind the scenes things that they're working on, but they're not doing it alone. And I think that that's the beauty of the Episcopal Church, is that we have a group of leaders within the church that are called as lay leaders to serve as members of the bishop's committee or the vestry. So the role of priests and deacons doesn't necessarily cover charge of a parish. There are people with an affinity for those things, which they may be wholly separate to their calling. So we should not discount people's people's calls. And we should also not limit the scope of the church and the possibilities within the church. The deacon is capable of more than we perhaps give them the opportunity. So.
All right, thank you. Rebuttal.
So as I understand it, the deacon's primary role is to support the priest. Make sure that the priest has got everything they need, they're taken care of, and help them with their different roles. Deacon's also supposed to welcome people through the church doors and see them on their way back out, and motivate lay ministry to help out to get all the missions of the church completed. Deacons obviously are volunteer, you're not paid, you have a full-time job and a lot of other responsibilities. So if you are going to be now in charge of an entire congregation, we're not talking what size of a congregation. If it's a large congregation, it would be very difficult for a deacon to try to maintain the job that they have plus the job of the congregation. So now you have congregation, even in a small congregation, where you could be not really pastoring these people properly, because not even a lack of training, just a lack of time. So if the deacon is meant to be the priest, well, there's another step in the process, and that's a possibility for any deacon. You can go through the rest of the process to become the priest, take charge of the congregation. Our job, deacon's job, is to support the priest and support the congregation, to motivate lay ministry to do the work of the church and the work of the Lord. We're not supposed to be in charge of a congregation. That's not our primary role. We're to support it.
All right, closing remarks. Amy, are you trying to say something? You're on mute. I don't know if you're.
I'm unmuted. Oh man. Okay. So in the examination during the ordination to the diaconate, every Christian is called to follow Jesus Christ, serving God the Father through the power of the Holy Spirit. And God now calls you into special ministry of servanthood directly under your bishop. And I think that is the call of the priest and the deacon. And those roles might be defined explicitly, or you may have to do something that the deacon asks you to do that is not what you intended or what you expected when you were ordained as a deacon. The deacon also has a connection with the world in a way that the priest doesn't, because the deacon has been serving in the world and bringing the needs of the world. And that can empower the community of the church to do Christ's work in the world, in their community, and beyond. So I'm not saying, again, cheap labor. I do not think that it would be an unpaid role if a bishop asked a deacon to lead a congregation. And if it is, then someone needs to have a conversation with their bishop.
Thank you very much. So that actually concludes. So while we're waiting for judges to put in their final score, I just want to give you a couple of updates about what we're doing in the Young Deacons Task Force. The Young Deacons Task Force, if you are a writer and you want to help out and join the actual Young Deacons Task Force Committee, our fall work is we're going to be developing a packet that's going to go to through AED as an organization, but we're the committee that's kind of responsible for help putting this together. A packet to give best practices and tell bishops how best they can work with deacons, and it's going to go to the College of Bishops. So when the baby bishops get trained, they'll have this nice packet that'll be presented to them of best practices and how they can get a hold of us. And we also want to include a section on how to work with young people through the process of the diaconate, because it is just a tiny bit different than sending off someone to a traditional 3-year seminary. So we're gonna include some of those steps. So if you're interested, you can send me an email for that. Another thing we're working on, and we should have an application at some point. Next year is General Convention, which is in Baltimore, and we have funds to try to get young deacons to show up and be a part of the General Convention. What we would ask is you would help work the AED booth, and as well as we would like to put you in some of the worship services as deacon. And so we're committed as an organization to trying to get you to come serve as a part of the AED group and as well, but we will also help subsidize your way there. So that's kind of exciting. So while I'm tabulating score, I'm just going to open it up to general comments. What was this process like? What did y'all think of it?
A lot of fun. Definitely challenging to try to go against maybe some of your views and try to come up with an argument against what you might think, but a lot of fun. I'm glad to meet everybody. Certainly, I'm so new in the process. I was certainly a little anxious about this event because, I haven't been through any schooling yet, let alone even a year or two. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for having me, guys. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for your words, Mark. Yeah. I thought this was fairly intense and really great training for thinking on your feet in terms of, and I've definitely got some things to study now in my limited off time.
I really enjoyed this experience. I need to rest a little and let my blood pressure go down because trying to come up with these arguments so quickly. So thank you for the opportunity. I did not know what I was getting myself into when I RSVP'd for this, and I'm really glad that I did because it really gives us the opportunity to consider not what is, but what could be in the church. And so as a young deacon, as a new deacon, I have a long road ahead of me. And so I am grateful that I will get to, that I've been a part of this so that I can really think about what my role as deacon is and what it also could be. So thanks.
Yeah, I did want to clarify, Mark. No, anyone can attend General Convention. You do not need to be ordained. As a matter of fact, if you know, half the House of Deputies is laity, and General Convention is a lot of volunteers go to General Convention just to help out because it's probably the biggest gathering of Episcopalians you could ever experience. So no, you don't. They have youth gatherings and they have lots of events at night, and so yes, people in process, people that are just active lay people. If you want to know how the church governs, I highly encourage you to go. I actually never been. I'm excited. I plan to go this year myself, but I've heard a lot of great stories about General Convention.
So I've been heading the advocacy for the deacons for the last two general conventions, and we always need help testifying and being willing to talk to people about what's important to the diaconate. They're usually based on social justice issues, as you might imagine.
Yeah. Well,
again, where is it this year?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Thank you.
It'll be next year. It was supposed to be this year, but it'll be next year.
Yeah, it starts July 5th. I mean, it goes for 10 days.
Right.
However, if you're going to be helping, it probably would be a good idea to show up before then because they're opening July 5th. That means everything needs to be going by then.
Yeah, we'll have more details about that coming out once our committee who's in charge of that gets us the information they want us to help with. But I got some good news, and this is exciting. And I did not do it this way. I did not plan it this way. But both teams, it is actually a tie at 3.9. So that is awesome. Good job, everyone. And yeah, I just want to thank you all for taking your time out on a Sunday after church to come and spend some time doing this. If you have any ideas of future events, or if there's continuing ed or something you're interested in, feel free to drop me an email. We'll try to figure out how we can make some of that happen. And if you're actually interested in being on the task force itself, let me know. And Rick and I both serve on the task force, so we love to have new people be a part of it. So thank you very much. With that, I wish you good night.
Blessings, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
night.
all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Hey.
Good to meet
We're
everybody.
from Mexico.
Bye, Ivan.